This night is about telling our story. You see, God made human beings because God loves stories. And since we are made in God's image, we too are drawn to them. We can't help but tell them, listen to them, and even have our lives shaped by them. Stories help us make meaning of our past, and they even create possibilities for our future. Tonight, we remember and we retell our story as a way to find courage and have hope. Our story begins with blessing and bounty. The descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our ancestors, found themselves as honored guests in the land of Egypt. As refugees fleeing famine and misfortune, we were welcomed, and we were given the best land to work and to dwell. But sometimes, stories go sideways. What starts out as a sweet thing can quickly sour, leaving its characters suddenly feeling desperate and looking for a way out. Our honor as guests became the shame of slavery. We unexpectedly found ourselves burdened with a heavy existence that we could no longer bear. But the story was not doomed. We cried out, and the Lord heard our groans, and God answered our cries with a miracle. God intervened in our story and acted within it to set us free. We begin tonight by telling the story of the Passover in order to never forget both the power of God and the eternal promise that God has made over you and me, over all of us, God's people. And the story of the Last Supper, which we recall every Maundy Thursday, is rooted in the more ancient Passover meal. The Exodus story is the definitive story of the Hebrew Scriptures because it reveals to us who God is, and it reveals to us who we are as God's people. Passover declares that God is not totally separate from our stories. God has decided not to be God without us. God's life is bound up with ours. God will not allow our story to end in disaster. The great joy that we receive at Passover is that God is defined as the one who is compassionately involved in our world and in our time. When our ancestors found themselves as slaves in Egypt, God was not deaf to their cries, nor ignorant of their suffering. Instead, God inserted God's self to save and liberate us. And what does this story say about us, God's people? We are a people who have been given a gift, the gift of knowing God in a unique and a powerful way. As long as this story is a part of you, it shapes who you are. Do you feel trapped tonight? Do you happen to feel stuck in a story that seems to be heading toward a bad outcome? Are you feeling as if the end of your story has already been written in a way that leaves you without hope? Remember this story tonight. Your story. When we were slaves in Egypt, God came to our rescue and acted in power to free us from captivity and to become our God. Remember this good news and take heart. Your God is a God of rescue and redemption, the one who does not forget you in your suffering, but hears your cry and comes to set you free. Tonight, after each moment of teaching, you're going to have an opportunity to reflect and to respond. For the first couple of these teachings, your opportunity to reflect and respond will come in the form of a prompt that we'll have on the screen behind us. And with some helpful background music to set the mood, you're invited to reflect, to pray, to engage with these questions and these prompts as you feel led, as you reflect on the God who made you, who loves you, who will never let you go. So we're going to put that prompt on the screen now. Sometimes we forget how the story goes. We get into the middle of telling it, and then our mind wanders off. We lose track, and we no longer remember who we are or where we're going. God acted powerfully with wonders and miracles in our presence, but we forgot the story. Though we found ourselves physically free, it wasn't long before we returned to captivity in our hearts, forgetting the Lord who brought us out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand. Though out of Egypt, we didn't embrace true freedom, and instead we fixed our eyes on the things that hold us captive. We ran after the desires of our own egos. We failed to remember the common blessing that we share as God's sons and daughters. We turned from God, and we turned on each other. And once we lost the plot of the story, we mixed up the roles of the people, the characters in the story. Though creatures, we fancied ourselves the creator. Abandoning the storyline, we wandered off into the dark corners of the page. Ensnared in our selfish desires and decisions, entrapped in our destructive ways, we could not escape. We didn't know how. We needed someone from beyond us to come, to be with us, to reveal to us salvation. Someone needed to come and get the story back on track. We arrive with Jesus at the gates of Jerusalem, and we find ourselves waving palm branches at him and crying out to him for rescue. Hosanna! Save us, please. As we gathered around the table with him to celebrate the Passover meal and to remember how God delivered us from slavery in Egypt, we also feel the ache of bondage lingering in our spirits. As we declare at the table how God had passed over us and struck down our enemies, we also cry out for deliverance from all those things that still hold us captive. As you take your seat at the table with Jesus, do you find part of you to still be in exile? Maybe trapped in some kind of chain of brokenness? Where are you crying out to God for deliverance tonight? As you reflect on these things, we encourage you to respond by engaging with the prompt that'll be on the screen now. The best stories that we know are the ones that have the unexpected turn. They drop hints along the way, but never give themselves fully, totally away until the very end, when all is revealed to our shock and our amazement. As we sit down at the table in Jerusalem with Jesus on the night of the Passover meal, we feel a rush of anticipation. We have an idea about how this story will go. We start retelling the story of the Exodus, the night of the Passover, eager to recount God's mighty acts of deliverance and our rescue from slavery in Egypt. But our eye looks toward the near future, how God might come again to set us free. But as Jesus picks up the bread, he has a different look about his face. Suddenly, this doesn't seem like the usual Passover meal. He looks at me, and he looks at you, and he tells us that this bread is his body given for us. And the cup of redemption, he calls it his own blood poured out for us. What? God intends to do what God always said he would do, but he will do it in a way that none of us ever expected. Suddenly, this meal is no longer what we thought it was. This meal centers on Jesus himself. While we thought this meal was about freedom from our enemies, we are now told that this meal is about being perfectly united with the living God. While we thought this meal was a time to anticipate God's victory over the oppressive empires, Christ proclaims to us the liberation of all creation, including our enemies. And while we thought God would set us free with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm in power and might, Jesus tells us that we will be freed with the even greater force of self-giving love. And just like in the Exodus, God would again set us free from everything that tried to keep us in chains. Through the events of the coming days, Jesus is telling us that this meal is the whole world ransomed, redeemed, restored, renewed. God has once again entered into our story to save us, but in the most unexpected way. God has become our Passover lamb, the one who leads us from death to life. Whenever we gather around this table, we are intricately and forever linked to that table where Jesus celebrated the bread and the cup with his first followers. Whenever we eat the bread and drink from the cup, we are reminded that we are part of the people whom Jesus gathers and claims as his very own body. When we feast together in this meal, we encounter the life-changing presence of Christ, who will never let us go. Do you find yourself longing for freedom? Do you eagerly want to be rescued from what burdens you or holds you back? Do you desire to be truly known and truly loved? There is a place at this table for you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Weekly Teaching. To watch the full live stream of this worship service, you can view all archived streams at the Alamo Heights UMC YouTube channel. If you have any questions, email us at podcasts@ahumc.org. That's podcasts@ahumc.org. You can also visit our website, ahumc.org, anytime. Any related links are also in this episode's show notes. Again, thank you so much for being a listener. We truly appreciate your time.